What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the nerdy realm within the multiverse. We've got the big closeout of The Boys Season 3, as we just got the 8th episode of the season, being the finale of it, titled The Instant White Hot Wild. We're gonna jump right back into the finale to break it down and give our thoughts on it, as well as some predictions for the next season to come. The finale was filled with tons of callbacks, Easter eggs, and crazy moments, so we have to touch on as many of them as possible. So you already know that this video will be filled with spoilers, so this is your spoiler warning now. Make sure that you watch the finale before going through this video. In the last episode, we saw Victoria Newman give Homelander a piece of paper with an address on it while making a deal with him. We suspected that this address was where Ryan was located with Grace Mallory and under the protection of the CIA. We see that that assumption was true as we start the finale off with Ryan throwing baseballs, but now with his super strength, just like him and Homelander did in the previous season. But this also sort of reminds me of these scenes from Invincible where Omni-Man threw baseballs with his son. Homelander shows up behind Ryan and he gets Ryan back onto his side, or in other words, just assures Ryan that he isn't upset with him for what he did, obviously referring to Ryan accidentally killing Becca in the last season. He tries to tell him that Supes always face accidents like that and tells Ryan that he would know more than anyone, although the accidents that Homelander is referring to are most likely not accidents and just more of the horrible things that he has done. Two large crowds are outside of the Vought Tower protesting and arguing with one another, one representing Starlight and the other Homelander. This is obviously even more parody stuff and making fun of the political side of the real world. We can see that Homelander's crowd is made up of Stormfront fans and Nazis, showing us the type of people that he influences, but also how bad of a person he is himself and who he associates himself with. The Attorney General has a warrant and is on the way to search the tower for evidence and to find Maeve. This leads to Ashley and the Deep going to Maeve's cell and having to get her out of the building and moved, where they knock her out with what is most likely the same exact type of vapor that was mentioned in the last episode that was capable of knocking Soldier Boy unconscious. We see Huey, Butcher, and Soldier Boy in the Legend's house again, where Huey is cleaning out the ooze coming from his ear, which we know is from the Temp V that him and Butcher have been taking. We also know that they are reaching the number of doses that will end up killing them, while being escorted to a new location and being under guard by a SWAT team of sorts that obviously works for Vought. Maeve wakes up and breaks free from the van, leaving none of them alive to warn Vought, or so we can assume. Frenchie and Mother's Milk have a pretty deep and emotional conversation together, where they touch on what happened in the last episode when MM knocked Todd out in front of Janine. Ashley and the Deep walk in to inform Homelander of what they did with Maeve. Before they can finish talking about her though, Black Noir returns to the tower and we can see his little animated imaginary friends from the last episode. He walks into Homelander's room and he and Homelander reunite after Noir took his chip out and left, making Homelander think that he was abandoned. It really seems as if Homelander and Noir are the only two in the 7 that ever actually had a real friendship. Butcher and Huey are getting ready to leave for Vought Tower to go and confront Homelander and give Soldier Boy his opportunity to kill Black Noir as well. But before they can leave, Butcher knocks Huey out and locks him in the bathroom. This is obviously Butcher's way of saving Huey from the Temp V and its effects, which were slowly closing in on the both of them. A-Train and his brother meet with one another after everything that happened after his brother was paralyzed by Blue Hawk, where they end up having a falling out and his brother tells him to stay out of his life. I can really feel as if A-Train is slowly getting to the point where he will end up being on the side of the boys rather than sucking up to Homelander, as obviously he's slowly getting sick and tired of what Vought and Homelander are doing and how it is affecting his life. Starlight picks Huey up and they head back to where MM, Frenchie, and Kimiko are, and when they get there, Maeve is also waiting for them. Huey tells the group that Soldier Boy is Homelander's father, where the group agrees that they need to stop Soldier Boy as well as Homelander, but also save Butcher, no matter how bad of a person he has been to his own team. Butcher and Soldier Boy talk about their childhoods and their experiences with their fathers, Butcher's obviously being horrible and abusive, and Soldier Boy tells stories about his father and how his father never abused him physically, but was also verbally disrespectful to him and called him a disappointment, which is a big foreshadowing of what happens later in the episode between him and Homelander. Homelander walks in in on Noir sharpening his weapons, and Noir tells him that Soldier Boy needs to die, and he tries to tell Homelander how bad he is. Obviously he is unable to speak, so he has to communicate with Homelander through writing on paper. Homelander mentions that Soldier Boy is his father, and then asks Noir if he knew about that and just never told him, and Noir shakes his head yes, which leads to my least favorite part of the episode just because he was one of my favorite characters. Homelander punches through Noir's stomach and kills him and walks away. As Noir looks up, taking his last few breaths, we can see the animated characters talking to him and telling him that they are proud of him. Noir's death and him being killed by Homelander is a bit of a connection to the comics, and it's an opposite sort of mirror of what happens in them, as Noir was actually the one to kill Homelander in the comics, but now in the show, Homelander is the one to kill Noir. And for a character we didn't know much about and really didn't see much of until recently, he has the saddest death that has happened in the show so far. Starlight and the group show up to where Butcher and Soldier Boy are staying, and they try to convince him not to do what he is about to do. Maeve ends up turning on Starlight and them and taking the side of Butcher and Soldier Boy because she wants Homelander to die just as much as the rest of them. Butcher ends up locking them in a safe, and him, Soldier Boy, and Maeve set off to the Vought Tower to deal with Homelander and Black Noir. But, of course, they don't know that Noir is already dead. The Deep, A-Train, and Ashley listen to Starlight's warning of Soldier Boy and that they need to evacuate the building. But before they can do that, Homelander interrupts them and tells them not to do that, setting Black Noir's helmet on the desk, showing them that he killed him. He tells the Deep to do him a favor, which is referred to as treason by the Deep, and we see why this is, because he was sent to kill the man who was on his way to becoming the vice president of the country. He tells Ashley to take off her wig, where we see that she has gotten to the point where she has pulled out almost all of her hair, forcing her to wear a wig. Homelander tells them that none of them are his family and that Noir was worth more than all of them put together, and that he doesn't need and never needed any of them ever, showing that he actually did have somewhat of a bond with Noir and did care for him, and he may actually feel guilty for killing him now. Starlight and the group break out of the safe and they agree to head to Vought Tower to stop Soldier Boy, but before they do, we can see Huey secretly pick up a dose of the Temp V. Homelander watches over old recordings of Soldier Boy, and then he shows up behind him with Butcher and Maeve. Homelander tries to sway Soldier Boy to his side as they are family, and then he introduces Soldier Boy to Ryan, who is technically his grandson. Soldier Boy puts his hand on Homelander's shoulder, and it seems like he is about to turn to his side, but remembering what he said about his own father earlier, he ends up calling Homelander weak and a disappointment and then attacks him. They try to hold Homelander in place so that Soldier Boy can use his blast and take his powers away, but Ryan stops them and uses his laser eyes on Soldier Boy, which makes Soldier Boy attack Ryan, taking this whole thing to the worst situation possible, because now Butcher has to protect Ryan as well, so he attacks Soldier Boy and they begin to fight each other while Maeve attacks Homelander and gives him a pretty good run for his money. Butcher is nearly killed by Soldier Boy, but he ends up getting saved by MM and Starlight. Kimiko and Frenchie are working in the Vought Tower's lab so that they can recreate the vapor that they plan to use on Soldier Boy, while Huey works in the power room and evacuates the building. Frenchie ends up getting shot in the foot while making the vapor, but no need to worry as he is perfectly fine by the end of the episode. Kimiko takes the vapor and goes to back up MM and Starlight. Maeve manages to give Homelander a bloody nose and stabs him in the ear, but her fight with him doesn't come without a cost as he pries out one of her eyes. Almost everyone is defeated in the fight against Soldier Boy, and he's about to go after Starlight, and he would have probably killed her if it wasn't for Huey being in the control room, where he amps up all of the lights to the max power, powering her up to the most powerful state we have seen her in, where she even gets to the point of levitating and flying. Her blast doesn't really do much though, and Soldier Boy just gets right back up after it, but he gets held, and Kimiko tries to knock him out with the vapor, but it doesn't seem to be working, and he is charging up his beam, where Maeve gets her last blow on Homelander before presumably sacrificing herself and taking Soldier Boy with her as she jumps out of the window of the tower to save everyone from his blast. We do find out that both Maeve and Soldier Boy survived this though, however Maeve no longer has her powers and she now gets her happy ending and is able to go off and live a normal life with her girlfriend, while Soldier Boy is being held in another containment center under the watchful eye of Grace Mallory and the CIA. Butcher wakes up in the hospital after he fell fell unconscious from the Temp V, where the doctor tells him that he has 12 to 18 months left to live, showing us that the effects caused by Temp V were very much real, and now Butcher is facing them. And now his plans are most likely going to go into full effect now, and that he may stop at nothing to do what needs to be done. We learn exactly why the Deep was sent to kill the vice president, as Victoria Newman gets announced as the new VP running mate with Singer, meaning this is what her deal with Homelander was, and we can see exactly what her plan is. We can assume that since she is the head popper, she will most likely end up killing the actual president once they get elected, and making it look like an assassination so that she can become the president herself. Butcher meets back up with the boys and its newest member, Starlight, and says that Newman needs to go, giving us a subtle hint at where the next season will take us. Homelander flies down to a crowd of his cult-like fans and decides to introduce them to Ryan, his son, where one of Starlight's fans throws a can at Ryan, which Homelander finally snaps in public and kills the man in front of all of his fans, including Todd. But it seems as if one beating from MM and seeing how horrible Homelander is in front of his face wasn't good enough for Todd to realize what he's doing and the danger he's putting Janine into, as he starts cheering for Homelander after he murdered the Starlight fan in public, which makes both Homelander and Ryan give off a sort of evil smirk, which is where this crazy finale ends off. As for our thoughts on it, wow, this finale was such a great send-off to season 3, and it was by far my favorite episode of the series, and it seems as if that can be said every time a new episode comes out, as it just got better and better every week this season, and now this leaves me extremely excited to see where season 4 is going to take us whenever it comes out. The finale was just so action-packed and entertaining, and it honestly had me at the edge of my seat watching it, because I truly didn't know what was going to happen or who was going to possibly die. Sadly, Black Noir is gone now, and they did him pretty dirty, but I'm glad we at least got to see him a little bit more before he was taken out. Homelander has probably become my favorite live-action villain when it comes to comic book shows now. He's so terrifying, and you can really feel how unhinged he is and how much worse it could get from here. Anthony Starr does a phenomenal job at playing the character, and this series couldn't have a better antagonist. This goes for the rest of the cast as well, as everyone puts their all into the show and their characters, and it's really great to see how this show doesn't have a single bad or boring character in it. Every single character has great writing and a great delivery from the actors in their role. I cannot wait for next season, and I hope we get to see them beginning shooting it sometime soon, even though it was just announced for renewal. And speaking of next season, let's talk about some predictions or things we think may end up happening in season 4. For the character of Victoria Newman, as we mentioned before, we are thinking that she is planning on getting rid of Singer once they get elected as president and vice president, so that she can be put into presidency herself, which will lead to the country being under the influence of a soup that also has ties to Vought and Homelander and its corruption and cruelty. We can imagine that the boys will not only go after Newman but also Homelander to try and save Ryan and prevent him from becoming his father, just like Becca made Butcher promise to her before she died. As for what's going to happen with Soldier Boy now that he's right back into being held in containment, I believe that Grace Mallory and the CIA may end up doing experiments and research to figure out how his powers work, and so that they themselves can figure out a way to take Compound V out of Soups so that they can ultimately take Homelander down. Soldier Boy may end up escaping again, and if he does, we can assume that he will be after everyone now, including the boys, as they technically tried to take him down, just like his previous team Payback did. I wish I could say that there is a chance that Black Noir is alive and that we will get to see him again and see him get his revenge and redemption, but that is nearly impossible just because of how brutal his death was. But with all of that being said, that's really about it for the finale and now the whole third season of The Boys. Remember that if you are feeling extra nerdy today, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on to help support the channel and to get more nerdy content from us. If you wish to support us a step further, feel free to check out the links in the description. And as I always say, thank you all for watching, and until the boys are back, we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.